Hey everybody. So this was a quick technique that came up the other day in class, and I don't know if it was I had a cold or just tremendously long day, but I wanted to clarify it. We were talking about render layers and whether or not you'd be able to use them for troubleshooting your scenes, getting different looks in your scenes. Um, they are usable for rendering out and separating your scene for composite, so they're actually good for that too. A lot of people do use render passes now. But what I wanted to show you was how we could exclude or include or use different sort of looks in different scenes, and that's a really good use for render passes. Okay, so we have a render pass, and it's the main render pass, and it includes everything in here. What I'd like to do is create a light. Let's say create a blah 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 blah. Let's create an area light. Alright, so I'm going to create an area light, bring it in, kind of tilt it down a little bit, something like this, and bring it up. Okay, so we'll do this, bring it up to over here. I will turn on light so we can actually see what we're looking at. So if we move it around, you can see that we've got a light. If we go to its attribute editor, what I'd like to do is something funky with it, maybe make it an orange light. So let's say this was a fairly sophisticated lighting setup for your scene. You're doing some sort of evening sunset sort of light, and you also wanted to get a look at how it would play out if you were doing something in the nighttime. Okay, so what we might do is select everything in the scene, and down here we can go to our render layers setting and create an entirely new layer. So let's say we were going to create something and we were going to call it nighttime, N-I-G-H-T, we'll call it night. We can go to the light and go to its attribute editor, and if we click on the color, we have the ability to create a layer override. Okay, so for the color of the light, what we do is create a layer override, and I can click on the orange, and let's say make it a blue. Maybe not quite that blue, maybe something in this vein. Okay, so now it looks like we have a blue light, and we're doing pretty good. And that, if we render it out, is what you'll see on this layer. But now on the master layer, it still remembers what the color of the light was that we were working on for our sort of orangey sort of world light. Okay, so what this does is give us the ability to separate and change things. Like, let's say we wanted to render out this scene at night during the daytime, nighttime, and grab this object and just exclude it. So what we could do is we can go to the nighttime and we can actually remove selected. Alright, so now when we render out for nighttime, it doesn't include that lamp post. Lamp post is still there, and it's still available to us for the daytime pass. If we were doing something with our ground, we're actually going to put a texture on it, let's say a Lambert, and we have a new Lambert for the daytime. And we know how when you're out and about in the world, quite often you will find streets that are full of checkered maps, okay? And that would be the case for that. And now we can go to the nighttime, and we have these checkers, and we can go back to the attribute editor, and we could either create a layer override altogether, so I might just create a layer override and remove that checker. So we might do something like this, break connection, and you can put something else in there. But on the master layer, that is still available to us. So we could be in here on the master layer and have that checker, and at nighttime not have that checker and have this as a blue light. We can pretty much set up anything you want as long as you follow that it's either added to the render layer or not added to the render layer. I know sometimes people are interested in how do we set up ambient occlusion layers. Well, let's do that really quickly. We can select our geometry, and we can actually create a new layer, which would be this, and you actually have the ability to go into the layer itself, and if we go to attribute settings and we go to layer 1, we have the ability to grab presets, and one of the presets we have is occlusion. What it does is, and you can do it manually if you like, is it sets up a ambient occlusion layer. Now this doesn't look particularly right to me. We could increase that, but more specifically I would say that the maximum distance here needs to be brought down because we're getting the gray bleed going out quite a bit. So if we re-render this now, maybe that, maybe just take this up to 20. There you go. I think that's looking a little bit better. So basically what we can do then is we're getting a fair amount of detail in all of this stuff here, which is what you want out of an ambient occlusion layer. It's not perfect, and I think we could, as we go into this stuff more and more, we'll experiment and we can talk more about that. But that is some of the options we have. And again, nighttime is still there. It's completely untouched, as is the master layer with the light. And now we have this layer, and if we close this out, we can call this the AO layer. And we have this as our ambient occlusion layer, which works terrific for compositing, or a good thing you can add to your textures to really bring them to life. Anyway, hopefully that was helpful. Have a great day.